basically how do we build a better Nigerian society, and our focus is on creative sector and the tourism sector.
And we work with communities as well as the public sector, so Lagos State Government, looking at public space and transportation.
My name is Adun Okupe, and I am working with the Sahara Center, which looks at advancing socio-cultural dimension of sustainable development in Nigeria.
My name is Olamide Udoma-Ejorh. I am the Executive Director at Lagos Urban Development Initiative. Today we're talking about the Lagos Island Project.
The Lagos Island Project is a project by the Sahara Center and Lagos Urban Development Initiative that try to understand the perspective of residents as regards recreation and leisure to get insights for tourism and urban planning in Lagos. So we looked at Lagos Island as a locality and looked at different segments within the community. So we looked at residents, business owners, visitors, tourists, and workers, so those that worked in Lagos Island. The inspiration behind it really was looking at the Marina 2.0 project, the Millennium Project as well, and trying to understand that if we're trying to develop tourism in Lagos State, it's important that we gather multiple perspectives to ensure that what we're trying to do and solutions we're trying to propose are holistic and inclusive. And so the inspiration really was to say that let's look at Lagos Island. There's a lot of activity happening there right now with the J.K. Randall Museum and different development plans that the government has. Do they actually meet a need for the community that that lives there, but also the visitors and tourists to the community? The scope of the project looked at understanding perspectives on recreation and leisure in Lagos Island, and we looked at communities, we looked at residents, looking at residents associations. We also looked at visitors, employees, business owners, and tourists to the space. Then we first of all started with a desk research and literature review to first of all understand whether or not this has happened anywhere in Nigeria in the past, and trying to learn from how it had happened in other parts of the world. So looking, for example, at the London King's Cross Redevelopment Project, but we conducted surveys on different days to capture various perspectives and multiple perspectives. And then we followed this with focus group discussions to see and to member check and cross-check that our findings were valid and were correct before we then proceeded to write up our report and our analysis. The project was commissioned by the Sahara Center to try and understand at a deeper level, with a deeper sense, perspectives on recreation and leisure in the community. And so we selected the Lagos Island community because of activities that have been going on there over the last few years in terms of regeneration, in terms of heritage. And so what happened was we invited the Lagos Urban Development Initiative to be part of this project because of their expertise in urban planning and their expertise working with communities to see how we can come together to identify a strong tourism urban planning solution for the project. So it's actually been funded by the Sahara Center and the Lagos Urban Development Initiative with some support from the Harry Gore Foundation.
So the methodology and rationale for this project are in two parts. The first part is desk research, and then the next part was field study. So the first part we did a literature review where we looked at documents and literature and projects which had already kind of done things around tourism, urban planning, gentrification, just really the impact of tourism and leisure on the urban space, but also looking at the aspects or the ideas of residents and how they think about leisure and how they are part of the development process. So that was the first part, which was the literature review. The next part, which was really looking at the community of Lagos Island and how the visitors, the residents, and the business owners spend leisure time. What are the key attractions within the space? Accessibility, so how easy is it to access tourist attractions or even just leisure spaces like public spaces or local clubs and things like that, and also lastly the impact of tourism on Lagos Island. So really trying to understand here how the social and economic impact of tourism is on Lagos Island and the communities that live within that space. And so we did several interviews with both, as I said, residents, visitors and business owners. And then lastly, we did a focus group discussion where we really brought these groups together to talk about what we've already found and how, and if these are validated thoughts on what we found, but also have them think about their vision, what they think Lagos Island could be, how they feel about the space, and what potential and what they think what they think the future of Lagos Island could be. So what we found throughout the project, through the research, through the desk review, also the stakeholder workshop, as well as the field surveys, is that the stakeholders are willing to be active participants in urban development, whether it's about tourism, whether it's about urban planning, whether it's about transport planning. They really are keen to be part of that process. In addition, outdoor activities need to be fused together with urban design. We can't keep these parts of urban planning separate because it looks at safety, security, housing, and transportation needs. So really tourism or even leisure activities really do need to be planned together with any kind of urban development. Also, accessibility was one of the issues that was raised in regards to how people use spaces within their community. So if we have built a space such as Freedom Park, but it costs a certain amount for people to access, the majority of the population around Freedom Park are actually, the urban poor. So how do they access such a space if they have to keep paying for that space when they visit? So accessibility was one thing that needed to be thought about. And then to a large extent, there remains a lot of work to be done. And I think that's one of the things I think is important here. There's a lot of work to be done in terms of collaboration. How do we work with communities to plan better cities?
So as a result of this project, we found out that there's a strong opportunity to contribute to tourism development of Lagos Island, giving the residents, business owners, and visitors perspectives of the potential to get involved in recreation, leisure, and tourism, but also particularly looking at the relevance to socioeconomic activity and the way that the residents, the business owners can really benefit from tourism business in this environment as well. So that was important for us in terms of looking at tourism and urban planning initiatives, so that it's not just leisure and recreation, but looking at the cycle that provides economic benefits as well as social benefits. So a way to learn, a way to understand culture, a way to have safer communities, because when people see that they are able to access areas in their community, play there and learn from it, then they're better able to take care of it and take ownership for it. But to a large extent, there still remains work to be done in terms of the importance of leisure and relaxation to the well-being of Lagos Island residents and business owners.
So my recommendations after this project is looking towards both Lagos State government and the community. So there has to be stronger community participation within the space of urban planning. It's integral that communities are part of the process from the beginning. So it's not about creating a plan and then presenting it to some people and saying, okay, we've done this, we're bringing this to your community, here it is. But it's more about starting from the beginning. What do you need? What do you want? How do you feel? How do you use the space already? And then developing a plan, developing recommendations, developing an understanding of how the space can be used now and also in the future. Secondly, I think it's very important for governments to think about the management of space, because we can develop a space and we can see it thriving, but then we have somebody else take over the space, live in the space, and use it in a different way than was intended. For example, I remember a youth advisor or head of the youth group in the community mentioning to us that they used to have community spaces. And then recently one of the community spaces was sold to a developer. This is perfectly fine, but then this has completely removed that space from the community. They're not allowed to access it anymore. which means that that space is now a private space rather than a community space. And it's very important to have public spaces, especially when you have a low, well, actually for any income group, to be honest, because it's a place where people can meet, integrate, discuss, and really it's a space that can educate. There's so many things that you can do in these kind of public spaces. So, really it's the management of that space should have gone to the government in terms of policies and regulations of how the space can be used. So I think it's really important for government agencies to think about developing the space, yes, but also managing the space and ensuring that the space continues to be something that is for the public good.
First of all, there are key stakeholders in any community development initiative. Whilst we look to government to be the core stakeholder, we also have to take responsibility as residents, as business owners of communities, and also as visitors and tourists. Because it's important to know that if we appreciate or treasure a certain space, then we have responsibility to make sure that it's developed in the right way. And therefore, one recommendation is that there should be regular intervention and meetings to talk about how tourism urban planning is taking place in Lagos Island, where they'll have different voices and different stakeholders to understand what is happening, what is going to happen, and the respective impact that it will have on the different stakeholders. So some sort of sensitization as well. The other recommendation is that key interest groups should look at awareness creation about the importance of leisure and recreation activities to sociocultural development and also well-being. Then my final recommendation really is that it's important that we then develop with the government some sort of toolkits that can be used to ensure that other spaces that are going through some gentrification or regeneration are able to capture the perspectives of key stakeholders, so residents, visitors, business owners, as well as workers in the communities. In terms of the next steps for the project, we've worked on the report and we're going to develop a detailed report that will be shared with the public. And then we're going to share this as well with the residents associations, selected business owners, and the Lagos state officials for further deliberations as a way to have more active participation. We're also going to develop a toolkit to be used for other researchers and other interested parties who want to conduct similar research to have a toolkit as to how they can go about this and engage with this in their communities to capture multiple perspectives, as well as a way for people to feel that they can participate in the conversations that relate to their community. So it's not always about waiting to be asked, but that there's an agency that we also have as community residents. So those are the next steps that we have.
The expected impacts of this project are around, one, the community of Lagos Island, really trying to bring them together and empower them to demand better urban spaces. This way they can be part of the process of development of urban planning, of tourism planning, of even service planning. So where are water services, power services, and also for the government also to understand the importance of leisure spaces. I think within our environment, the majority of the way urban planning is thought about is really around service delivery, electricity, power, water, housing. But the public space, the public realm is kind of forgotten. And so it's important for us to emphasize the needs of people, because it is an important space that people need. And we've realized this through our research, through this project. And so it's important for us to emphasize this to our urban planners, whether they are private or state government urban planners. They need to realize this as well. So I think those two impacts for me stand out as what this project is already achieving and what it aims to achieve in the future.
We hope the project is able to communicate the importance of recreation and leisure to a city. Cities are for work and for play, and we hope that by this project we have been able to spotlight a little bit on the importance of recreation and leisure, of play, to well-being, but also to development. Part of the impact is for communities to also understand that the impact is to educate communities to understand that they are key agents in their community, in the development of their communities, but but also that their voices are important and relevant to the future development of such communities, and that it's important that they understand that power that they have and that ability to also customize what it is that they want to, what they want to see in their communities, as opposed to necessarily just complaining. So the idea hopefully is that the third sector organizations like the Sahara Center and the Lagos Urban Development Initiative are really fitting a key space between public sector and private sector participation, where we are able to really spotlight to a certain group of people to say this is important, this is why it's important, and provide such findings for public sector but also for private sector investors. So those are the impacts that we have. And then the final impact that I think I would mention is the importance to other researchers on the importance and power that researchers also have to be credible witnesses to what's happening around them, to see problems or to see issues and challenges, and to understand that they have a role to play in coming up with possible solutions, and to understand that there's always going to be a medium that they can use to channel all these answers towards. I would like to thank all our participants that really contributed to this project. I would also like to thank the Henry Ball Foundation for supporting our data collection. I would like to thank the Goethe Institute for providing the space for the stakeholder workshops. And I would like to thank our research team really for going through different days, to understand and capture the various perspectives. So we really went through some mapping, and it was difficult standing outside in the sun certain hours in the day to ask people to contribute their opinions. So thank you so much to all these participants. What I would also like to add is thank you to Ludi as well for really working with us on this, because I feel like they added a really strong urban planning dimension to this project and showed a key way of how organizations can also collaborate together to have a certain objectives.
Finally, I'd like to say this project has definitely been an eye-opener for me in regards to understanding the public realm, so the public space of Lagos Island, the geography of Lagos Island, the needs and understandings of the communities within Lagos Island around leisure. It's been a great opportunity for learning, knowledge exchange, and real participation. It's really hard to get it's really hard to do a project where you get the stakeholders to be part of the project. So I think we've really tried to engage that idea within the project and move in that direction. So I think we've tried to We've tried to bring together different people, including, for example, Sahara Center and Lagos Urban Development Initiatives, but also funders, and also the community, business sector, the government as well. So we've really tried to bring together so many people within one project, and I think it's been quite successful in that regard.